So I have my guests in the studio. Let me just try to. All right. I think I look good.
You always do.
All right. So let me just introduce my guest for the morning. I have Daniel Ochem Abuaje. He's a member of parliament for Bantaba. I have a great bias towards him because he's my very good friend. The last time I called him, though, he didn't respond well. So I know after the show he will respond. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Don't worry, I'm just being misingenious. Don't mind me.
It's all right.
Somebody I don't call, but we have good relationship. We should. Alasan Suhini, I like to say that he's a total cheat MP. Member of Parliament for Tamale North. One of my best artists currently is Fancy Gadam, and I think he comes from his area, so that's it. How are you, sir?
Mischievous Roland Walker. I'm terrific, thank you. I hope you are well too.
I am. Did you go to Cape Coast over the weekend?
Unfortunately, I couldn't.
You've not been going to all the walks, so?
No, I wasn't.
You don't like any of the...
I was in Tamale for the walk. The maiden walk, I was there. In fact, I was very honored to be one of those who led with His Excellency President Mahama. In Accra, I missed it. I was caught up somewhere, another program, and I dressed even for the walk and went to that program, but before the program could end, the walk had ended, and so I had to meet some of them as they left the place where the converging point was, you know. But Cape Coast, I hear, was great, just as successful as Tamale and Greater Accra. I was in the constituency attending to other equally important duties in the constituency, all in the name and service of the party.
Mr. Waje, how are you, sir? How was your weekend?
It's good.
I know it's a Thursday, so. You've been in Parliament.
But last week I wasn't here. We had the opportunity to go and serve government of Ghana on the parliamentary committee in a trip.
Okay. Oh, so it means usually you go outside Accra. So to have a quiet time so that you can do what you have to do.
No. But this one was a trip to Tanzania where we had a chance. The members of the finance
How is
committee,
Tanzania different from Ghana? I hear that Magufuli, the president, has very high percentages in public opinion rate.
Well, it's quite different, but what you can see from our interaction with some people that we had a chance to meet, you know, Bank of Tanzania, the Revenue Authority, and you could see these people are very determined to want to move their country forward. If you look at all the things they are doing, so it was a very good opportunity.
Was Chris Adongo on the trip?
He was, yes.
Because he mentioned it in one of his commentary.
Exactly, yes, he was.
He's not been charitable to the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana at all. I mean, he said on one of the discussions, or in one of the discussions, I'm sure, this very trip, as you're mentioning Tanzania, he said it was one of the topmost officials of the Central Bank of Tanzania said the Vice President was in Mauritius.
It's not true.
Anyway, so we have, we'll be discussing all that.
Sure, we'll talk about all this.
So we're talking about the bond issue because the minority in Parliament, they had raised certain concerns and also taking a dig or jibing government, especially the finance minister for leading a team and subsequently the vice president, as is the leader of the government's economic management team, for not being able to meet the subscription rate as they had intended for the energy bond. We have some of those insights for you. We'll watch some of them, then we'll come back and have some great discussions on the subject.
It's important for you in the media to let the country know that in spite of all the beautiful, nice words that are being used, the center is not holding, and that is being shown in the fact that the world out there is not being deceived at all. And I'm sure if you are watching development, you would know, for example, that this is a country that is struggling with revenue. Okay, even basic revenue is a struggle. And why will it not be a struggle? It's a struggle because you basically hang your own selves in opposition, pretending that somehow when you come to office, you don't need to raise taxes. You actually had magical capacity to be able to unleash the economy of Ghana. If you remove so and so taxation, you can induce such growth in the economy. And then you come and realize that every single thing that you were talking about in opposition is not the reality. You've removed taxes and you realize the economy is not getting the spark that you need. growth is absolutely not happening. The only growth we are seeing today is the growth on the back of what the NDC has done, especially as far as oil and crude oil exploration was concerned. So that tells you that the talk is going on well, but the reality is dawning more and more. And it's important for our friends in power now to start eating the humble pie and to realize that talk is easy, but the reality is a different ball game. As for Bawumia, I think the least said about him, the better. For me, an individual who can swear on the Holy Quran and lie in front of the world, that individual has absolutely no credibility to even dare accuse anybody of being a liar. Because if there is one super liar in this country, that will be him. Anyone who can swear on the Holy Quran and lie to the world, who can swear on the Constitution and at the Supreme Court lie to the world, that individual has absolutely zero credibility. And so for him, when I hear him talking about propaganda, I'm like, propaganda? You are the embodiment of propaganda. Anyone who can swear on the Quran and lie is absolutely a congenital and pathological liar, and that's the reality.
How can a competent government use approaches and strategies and tools meant for a risk-free bond to sell a risky bond? That is why he said we could have issued a plain vanilla, then we would have been covered. But if you want to sell a risky instrument, then you must structure the deal to cater for the risk premium that you are not willing to pay, and that was not done.
Right. So, Honorable, you have threatened, and I'm talking about the minority, to someone or hold, the finance minister before a parliament. One will ask, to what end?
We want to know the circumstances under which we Ghana faced this disgrace. Right. We want to know the thinking behind the kind of structuring that they did. We want to know what exactly they thought they would achieve by being intransigent, by being arrogant, especially when the IMF, which is a major mouthpiece that the international investor listens to, made a categorical statement as to the nature of the bond. What were the arrangements that were done to assuage the fears of the investor that the risk issues have been taken care of? We want to know all of this, and we want to know going forward what exactly are we in now, because it's a big embarrassment that we had roadshows, international roadshows. If you went out to invite foreign investors to participate in a domestic bond, what were you thinking? That investors will bring money from outside, and yet you didn't intend to treat it as an international financial transaction for you, and that would have required that you come to Parliament. So in an attempt to avoid Parliament with all these complexities, they ended up being caught in a web of their own deceit.
So for you, clearly, it's a case of causing financial loss to the state.
Because if you had used the rating capacity of Ghana, the fact that Ghana as a country would have guaranteed this facility, investors would have been willing to price lower than our pricing guidance. And they would have bought this bond because they know when the worst comes to where they'll still get their money because it is a public debt and it is guaranteed by government.
NDC had a superior market strategy as against the MPP. NDC had a superior economic management team as against the MPP. And it is evident. Look, names don't win matches. Names, CVs do not win competitive matches. It has nothing to do with names. What matters is ability to sit down and work. I would have wished to guide this administration, if I am asked to do so, in the interest of Ghana, to make Ghana a better place for all of us. But obviously, we have an administration that believes in what they do. They think they are the best. The vice president always insults us, minority. Yet, nobody has said that he's attacking us. And that is what I find it unfortunate from you, the media, and the civil society of this republic, that in one breath you have a vice president who's insulting us, nobody talks about it. Yet, Ghanaians expect us to give them advice. I would wish to give that advice to the government and to guide them, to shepherd them into the rightful road, for free of charge. Because after all, I'm a member of parliament. So we would wish to do that. Our economic management team, we are ready to help them, but they won't consult you. The next point you raised relates to the fact that parliamentary approval. Yes, we've said that the government has breached the Constitution obviously, for not seeking prior parliamentary approval to go to the bond market for the purposes of using our tax revenue as collateral. 1, establishing an ESLA PLC, which is a state company, without parliamentary approval, and many more. Using the taxpayers' money to borrow 10 billion Ghana cedis, and you fail to let Parliament be aware. I think in itself, that is why we are inviting the minister to give us, if there's any reason why they did that. We will wait until he comes to Parliament and answer that question, and we can now let Ghanaians be aware our next move to deal with the situation. And finally, somebody asked as to whether Dumso is going to come back. Let me put on record that since this administration took office, they have never added 1 megawatt of power. 1 megawatt of power. Whatever we are seeing today is inheritance from President John Dramani Mahama. And it's unfortunate that His Excellency, the President of the Republic now, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, once said that he never inherited anything good. He inherited a stable power. He inherited an economy that he's building on today to ride at the back of it. Unfortunately, he's eroding the economic fundamentals that we gave to him.
And the minority apparently claims that Ghana's image has been battered in the investor community internationally because we're not able to meet the subscription rate as we had made our main objective. Now, as a result of that, we want the finance minister or the entire government team to come and apologize to Ghanaians for that. We don't know how far government will carry this, but Sohini, your thoughts on so far the position of you, the minority, and also the press conference following.
Well, thank you once again, Roland, and let me say good morning to our viewers. Yes, indeed, it's a shame that the government of Ghana could not raise the needed revenue from the international market through the energy bond, especially because of the initial talk of the high levels of investor confidence, because according to their own estimation and their own marking scheme, better handlers of the economy were now in charge, and so investor confidence was sorry. So it's such a shame that the so-called investor confidence they have already propagandized about did not reflect in the purchases. And when we say it's an embarrassment, let me just point to how Bloomberg, captions this. It says Ghana misses $816 million bond target after extended bidding. So it doesn't just tell you that we missed it. And remember, this is even the first time we have missed. We started going to the international markets to raise bonds in 2007. We've never missed our targets. So this is the first time that even after extending severally, we still could not raise the amount required. But again, let's just take a few steps back and look at the first bond that was issued by this government. Now, that was a bond that...
Which one specifically? The one that raised the 2.25 billion?
Fantastic. Now, that bond was raised within a day. Within a day. And government got all the money it wanted. And when the minority raised issues that this looked like some cook insider deal just for some people, the rebuttal was that it wasn't the case, but because better handlers were now in charge, and that's why people felt comfortable to get in. Remember, that case is still not being settled. The fact that we thought some insider trading had gone on, and this was just a setup, a friends and family bond to raise some money that will make Ghana indebted to some people, and along the line, they will make some money. You remember the connections. the deputy finance minister.
The conspiracy theories.
It's not a conspiracy theory, Roland. That's where you get it wrong, when you reduce it to just politics or just conspiracy theory. What has happened today should let us go back and find out why the government, at the time that it had not even taken over the economy like it has today, could magically raise that amount of money within the shortest possible time. But at this time that they are now totally in charge of the economy, it has taken them, you know, even an extension to still fail to meet.
And the minorities
what
guess
they wanted
is what?
To. That our earlier case of insider dealing in that first issuance makes sense given the failure of this bond.
Well, we're told that you should bring evidence
that it has failed
to corroborate whatever allegation that had been raised at the time, as far as the 2.25 billion.
Well, what evidence did you want? I mean, the fact that the company involved, Templeton and others, had dealings with our finance minister, the fact that the wife, you know, had interest, the fact that, I mean, what evidence again? Have you checked to tell us that those things didn't exist or they don't matter? Conflict of interest no longer is a matter in this country. And I mean, so, but that's just by the way. Now let's come back to this point. First of all, the government could go on the international market to raise this bond because of a very wise policy decision of the NDC government.
Which is?
The establishment of the Energy Sector Levy Act. The whole bond was
premised
on the existence of ESLA. Now you will recall,
which is the Energy Sector Levy Act.
Good. You will recall that when the NDC passed the Energy Sector Levy Act, our friends here, and I saw him in that demonstration in Kumasi, one of those demonstrations in Kumasi.
You saw him?
Yes. When they beat the NDC and President Mahama with it and promised the people that when they come to power, they will repeal that act because according to them, that act was making life unbearable and making electricity prices skyrocket. They said and promised that they will take ASLA off during their demonstrations with the poor people who still today are paying higher rates for electricity, unfortunately.
Well, that should be perceived higher rates, yeah.
At that time, the decision of the government was that, yes, we know that it's, you know, it is an extra burden on electricity consumers. But in the long run, it is going to make this country better, and the children that we are all giving birth to will live a better life. Even in our lifetime, we will enjoy it. There we are. As a result of ESLA, they could embark on this roadshow.
Are you claiming government can change its mind? It's a policy decision.
Fine, but when they change their mind, they should do the honorable thing of at least apologizing, even if not publicly.
Perhaps they were responding
to the previous government,
to the issues,
to the previous government, the NDC government, and President Mahama, and then also tell the people that, in fact, the man wasn't wicked after all. We thought he was just milking you out of wickedness, but he was doing it for the good of this country. So they rode on the back of ESLA, and that point has to be made. But then again, the issues we have raised is that, first of all, this roadshow was very expensive, and so it is such an embarrassment that we could not realize what we went out there to realize. Secondly, they are using a company, they created a company, Energy Sector Levy something, because
it's premised on the
PLC.
Act, the name of the act.
Because according to, like I've already stated, the bond is premised on this, the funds that is going into this, you know.
The fund itself.
Yes, the fund itself. So they created this company. Now our position is that That is alien to the law. Because you see, the act was passed by Parliament for a specific purpose. And if you create this company,
which is a special purpose vehicle.
Which is a special purpose vehicle. It becomes, and it acts like a state institution. What is the
like
mandate?
An SOE, GPHA
Yes.
that went to borrow on the back of his balance sheet.
Fantastic. Now, GPHA and those examples you have
GMPC.
given, they operate on an act of Parliament. They have regulations that govern what they do, the NCA and others. So what is the act, what is the law governing the operations of this company they have created?
And you say it's a contravention.
That's why we think that as a minority, the prudent thing would have been to come to Parliament to seek approval to create this company to administer the funds that will be accrued to, as a result of ESLA.
The Minister of Finance didn't come to Parliament.
No, when government was passing the act, government did not create an institution. The Parliament, did not create an institution to manage the fund. If you think that it has become necessary to use the fund to borrow, and you want to create a special purpose vehicle to manage that fund, and in the eyes of the international community, that fund will be seen as something you can use to borrow. We think that that company you have created should also be governed by law. And that is the point we have raised. Now, maybe in conclusion, if I am promised
because
that
we haven't finished.
If I'm promised that I can come
I know that
back,
because I'm just yesterday evening I just read your long. It was very educative.
Yeah,
but
there are various angles to it, and that is why I hope that I can have a second bite. So that aside, we are also saying that if you look at the international market, they are very sensitive to some of these things.
Why?
Now, because they have not even come to Parliament for us to create this company together as a government, the energy sector levy is a government policy. And remember, I already indicated that our friends in the minority, when they were in opposition, promised that they will repeal it and it will no longer be operational. So the international community is aware that that policy can change any time.
You mean if the NDC comes to power, one day it can repeal it?
Perhaps even they in power can decide to fulfill their promise to the people any day. They can decide that they are going to change the policy. You just said that people change their minds. So they can decide to change their mind and say that in the energy sector, they are changing direction and they want to repeal the energy sector levy.
And it means that?
And it will then mean that the investors' money will be at risk. And so the higher the risk, the higher the coupon rate. And that is why we are getting it at 19.5%, and we are not even meeting it. Because see, sometimes the investors will not even want to take some risk. No matter the interest that you are giving, they will not even be willing to take some risk. Because this act, this fund is established through a government policy.
Point made.
But like I said, I would like to come back
on the subject.
Yes.
Can you also make your input on this?
Roland, let me just...
His initial preamble has taken us a couple of minutes.
Let me just say good morning to our cherished viewers, and especially to my people in Bantima, and of course to the president and the vice and all the team that are working so hard to make Ghana a better place. Roland, sometimes what baffles me, with all due respect, is to see great people, intellectuals, who for public political expedience twist the truth. You see our friend Adongo, Fifi, all those things, talking as if they don't actually know what is going on.
What is going on?
Bond issue. What is a loan? You go to the market, what is happening? Basic demand and supply.
You mean the investor community doesn't have the appetite for bonds?
That's not the issue.
Especially coming from sub-Saharan Africa.
That is not the issue.
And not what the minority is saying is the structure?
Roland, that is not the issue. The issue is, you know what demand is and what effective demand is.
I know a little bit of my
Go to the streets and see what the people that sell on the streets. They offer you a price, and the price of borrowing is the interest we pay. And somebody will say, Roland, I will give you a loan. Given all the ratings, I'll give you a loan at a rate of maybe 50%. If you are in dire need for that kind of money, you borrow. So we went out there to sell. At what price? At probably the cheapest price ever that we have received. Domestic bond. Compare the history with the last 8 years.
You're talking about the first one, the 2.25.
Yes. Compare what they did in their 8 years. They were issuing bonds at the rate of 22%. So if it was a matter of
which bond was issued at 22%?
The 10-year bond and the 5-year bond in the last 8 years, go and check the history.
23%.
Yes.
Yes, Roland. It was over 20.
Okay. So if you wanted to if our friends in NDC who are criticizing, it's a matter of just being able to issue 100%, is what they're going to use as the measure of success and failure. Then we could have sold it at any rate. In this case, we pick and choose what we want to take. It's not the price. We're not going to pay over 20% for this. For that reason, we rejected some of the offers that came. That's what happened. So instead of them issuing it at any cost, paying any price to receive the money, and even end up using the money to do bad things, to inflate prices and all those things, we said, look, listen, we are here to issue this bond, but we are not just going to pay any price. So you can come and say, okay, I'm willing to give you the money at 22% or 25%, whatever the rate may be. We said, no, we are sticking to this price because we want value for money. That is just the difference. It's the demand and supply. It's the equilibrium price that we had a target to sell it at. And by the way, Roland, will you call a 90% success rate a failure?
Oh, that's for the first bond. Two bonds were on the market.
Okay.
Two coupon rates were on the market.
Right.
2 coupons were on the market.
Yes.
A 7-year.
A 7-year.
One.
Good.
And then a 10-year one.
All right. And what happened? In both cases, one is about 90%, one is over 60%. We can come back anytime. If you want to get money, do you know why people go to microfinance companies? Because when they go over there, the interest rate is high, they will get their money quick. In this case, we say, okay, you know what, we need X amount of money. Roland, we can raise it over time. And therefore, we're not going to just pay any price like our friends in NDC were doing. So that is the difference. So it surprises me when you see people like Fifi Kwete, Adongo, who understand the dynamics, come out and say that this is a failure. To me, it is not. It is because we're not willing to pay the heavy price that the lenders or the investors were asking for. And that is what happened. So this is, to me, is not a failure. And by the way, this bond that we are issuing, we are trying to take care of the previous debt, the energy debt that is there. This is what we call responsible government. It's not a government who comes in and leave everywhere you look. Everywhere you look in this country, they leave debt here and there. And we, the MPP government, is trying to take care of their mess, their 8 years mess. That's all we are trying to do. So that when we pay, instead of making this debt continue to sit and collapse banks and collapse people's businesses, we are trying to take care of it. Just like we paid half of the National Health Insurance debt. So they don't have the moral right to even criticize. By the way, I understand because they're in opposition. They don't have much to do. And all they are doing is just continue their propaganda and lies. You are talking about domestic bond. Does domestic bond require parliamentary approval before you can borrow? Check the laws. It doesn't. So what are you talking about? So this, I believe, is just propaganda, and they still haven't learned any lesson.
So your argument is that as far as putting together a special purpose vehicle, ESLA PLC,
okay, It's for domestic borrowing.
Okay.
That's why I like his words. The word that he used. He said, I think. He said he thinks. So let's go and check what the law is.
But in plain banking language, the collateral you are using for the investors or to attract the investors. The hive you are using to attract the bees, which were the investors, was ESLA. That is, you're saying that this funding is this cap, and what will fill this mug each morning is a tea bag that is coming from somewhere. Now, where that tea bag is coming from is from a certain farm. And that farm is regulated, was set up through some level of regulation. Now, if where the tea bag is coming from that farm, which is regulated, and you're using the fund or the money coming from that farm or that fund, which is regulated, then don't you have to go back to those who approved the setting up of that fund or the farm to say that money or the tea bag that will be coming from your farm or the fund onto this mark or into this mark? We want to tell you that, well, we're establishing this mark to be the receptor for that tea bag or that money from the fund.
Roland,
I think that's the argument of the minority.
But
everybody understands.
Listen,
domestic bond.
He said
you don't have to go to Parliament for any approval.
He said, I think. The regulation has been made. Go and read the Public Financial Management Act.
I have read a couple. Yesterday,
whatever the vehicle is,
a financial person drew my attention to it.
Are you saying that every time you need to borrow, you need to go and get parliamentary approval every time domestically? That's not the case. So they shouldn't make you feel. By the way, let's use common sense. If they were to come to Parliament for approval, what will happen? They can only have their say, and then we will have our way.
Now we'll go and have under subscription.
No, what I'm saying is that they will have their say. They have opportunity to talk just like they are speaking.
Mr. Ochema Boaje.
Yes.
Is it not the case of the minority that the argument is the way the bond was structured was unattractive in the first place because of, quote unquote, the collateral that was set? I mean, I'm just using so that people will understand it in plain language. 2.
Yes.
Is it not also because perhaps the rate in itself for investors to be attracted was not good enough? Because while you accuse the former government of perhaps setting high rates, etc., at 19%, and with no assurance of consistently a fund coming, or a fund perhaps just set on an act, there will be no guarantee for them that in the future that policy direction will still be maintained by any government in power in Ghana.
Roland,
yes, sir.
This is government of Ghana borrowing.
So no matter
what's the backing? The government backs it. It's going to be paid.
Not directly.
It's going to be paid.
It's not going to be part of our public debt.
The question is, it is going to be paid regardless.
Yes, but it's not going to be part of our public debt.
Especially when you're talking about this particular government.
Mr. Ochema Boaje, for example, if Fitch, Moody's, or even the World Bank or IMF are putting together the sum of our total debt,
sure,
this money will not be part of the public debt.
Listen.
You wanted to do smart borrowing. Is that not what you wanted to do?
Regardless of how you describe this bond is going to be repaid.
What, true?
That's what the bottom line is.
Okay.
And so nobody should judge or consider this as a failure, because honestly speaking, to me, it is not. It is not in the sense that one of them will get about 90%, the other one will get over 60%. We have time.
At what cost?
And they say people have lost confidence, investors have lost confidence in Ghana. What is their measure? Just because they didn't buy for a price that we didn't want? If we wanted to issue this like they did under their watch, 22, 23, 24, it would have been gone. You know, what happens is that our friends in the NDC, they are consistently inconsistent. When the bond was issued in a few days, the 2.25 billion.
Few hours.
This year, I want to call it.
This year hours.
Yeah. When it went so fast.
The accusation from them.
When it went so fast, they complained.
But it was also at 19%. If you take a look at it.
No. When it was so fast, they complained.
We didn't complain.
This
we
one
said it
is
was
going
a friends and family bond.
This one is going slow, or it went a little slow, and they are also complaining. What should we do? I think they don't have much to do. Our friends in NDC, I can understand. I haven't been a member of parliament at the time. Probably the party was in opposition, but I can see they are trying to find job to do, but that's not a problem. At the end of the day, we don't have 10-year or 10 months or 11 months mandate. We have 4 years mandate, and we are going to do right by people by dealing with all the mess they've created everywhere you look. So they shouldn't be talking as if Ghana is not attractive. What do you know about Ghana? It's not attractive. Go and speak to the people that are coming in, the investors that are coming all the time, looking for opportunities and business, because they have a government they can trust. They have a government that knows what it's doing.
Well, this coupon was undersubscribed.
Roland, it is
It
not.
could be 90%, and the other one also would have been 62.9. But still,
Roland, it's a price. It's a price that you put on it, the interest rate. So if you are willing to accept people to give you money for 100%, you will get all the money you needed.
You could have raised it.
You could have raised all the money you needed if you were willing to just pay any price. And the only way, let me tell you, I help support this microfinance operation.
Yes, I know.
When I came to Parliament, I had friends and members of Parliament, some of my friends who want to give me money to go and give to this fund, this thing that I'm affiliated with, that I'm managing. Because we have access to liquidity. And because we're not willing to pay too much. When people approach me, Daniel, I hear you have this, can I invest? I say, we will not be able to pay you anything better than the treasury bill rate, maybe treasury bill +2. But if you were to say, I'll give you 30%, 40%, they will be willing to give it to you. So that is what is happening.
And at the end of the day, you will suffer.
At the end of the day, you suffer. So the minister knows what he's doing. He's actually blocking all the issues that are affecting this country. He is on top of his game, so he can name his price.
So, Huni?
Yes.
Mr. Ochamabwaji seems to be saying that you're just making political capital out of this.
Now, first of all, if you say you are Abedi Pele, I like analogies. I hope this time they will understand me.
Once it's not about pigs and...
if you say you are Abedi Pele, and then
total cheat,
because you are playing with RTU, that's Real Tamale United, and you display your skills, and you get so impressed with your skills, and you say that you can even play better than Messi. When they take you to the, what do you call it, the big league, that is where you will be exposed.
Found wanting.
They say that the donkey is disgrace when you put it in a race with a horse. So we had a finance minister in a government that, together with their friends, sat down and gave each other money and came out to say they are the best when it comes to handling the economy and raising money. As a minority, we raised the fact that this was under the table dealings. That rules were under the table dealings, and we needed to look at it. Now they are in the real competition, where it is no longer about relations and who knows who, and the reality is dawning. The reality is that you go to the market to raise 2.4 billion, and you were able to raise, 1.5 billion. And after that, you extended before you could get that amount of money, 2.4 billion. You extended. Then you also went for 10-year bond. And guess what, Roland? 10 years, they expected to raise about 3.6 billion. At the close of the period, they couldn't even raise 1 billion. They had 760 million. At the close of the time frame, they did their own calculations. They had their records right according to them and gave themselves a time to raise 3.6. Within that time, they couldn't raise 1 billion. They raised 760. That is the reality. The fact that when you are not playing with relations and you are not playing with connections, your true size, your smoothness level will be shown. And that is what was displayed there. Now he talks about declaring our mess. Let's put it on record. The NDC set up the ESLA, that's the Energy Sector Levy Act, to clear what, as a country, we have all agreed to be legacy debts owed to energy companies and the banks in this country. Legacy debts, therefore, means that these debts are even older in some cases than you and I. There are debts that previous governments accrued as a result of management of the energy sector. Governments like the MPP and the President
Kufuor. I never said you accrued all of it.
No, he said you are creating.
I never said you
said you are clearing our mess that we left. You are paying a debt. And you see, the energy sector levy again was set up by President Mahama as one of his bold decisions to take unpopular but needed, actions to resolve this country's problem, because these debts had been lying there. So he came and he saw that the wise thing to do is to settle it so we can free our banks and expand our economy. So he set up the energy sector levy. You have come to build upon it. Unfortunately, you are doing it the wrong way, and you are not even listening because you are so full of yourself. You can't seem to understand that the interest of this country is what we are all trying to safeguard. So we're talking about the need to go to Parliament. We are not saying go to Parliament for approval before you go and raise a domestic bond. What we are saying is that Parliament passed a law establishing a fund. Now you have decided to assign the management of that fund to a company known as PLC. In the passage of the Act to raise the funds, Parliament didn't include any institution to manage the fund. Now you are creating a company, that's ESLA PLC, to manage this fund that Parliament has created. That is going to act like a state institution. And like I already indicated, every state institution, for example, when you have the gov't fund, Parliament passed a law to take to, now it has increased, of tax revenue to invest in our education sector. And as a result of that, Parliament passed regulations to set up gov't fund, so that gov't fund today can go into the international market if they wish to take a loan. Or even locally, they can take a loan from a bank because they have the fund and they have a law governing their operations. So what is the law governing ESLA PLC? Where is it from? Because when Parliament created the Act to raise these funds, Parliament didn't create PLCs, or the PLC, the ESLA PLC. So that is the point we are making, that look, it should have come to Parliament for a decision to be taken. And so if you assign the funds to this company, the international community, like I say, they know that this is too risky. And they know, yes, you are saying that in the end, yes, government will pay. Yes, a government that is
very secure.
It's secure to some extent.
How you look at it.
But you see, you are looking at tenures. You are looking at when they want their money, when they are calling their investments, whether they can get it.
It will be paid.
At the time that they are calling.
So if you say, care of your mess,
and you say,
you think what we create, we won't take?
Which mess?
Everywhere you look.
Which mess?
National Health Insurance, what did you do?
See where he's going to.
I'm telling you.
I don't get your argument sometimes. When you lose one, then you start another one that you will eventually lose.
Let me tell you this.
You will lose that one.
What you are trying to do, Roland, what you have to understand is that
you will lose that one. So let us
maybe, and with all due respect, maybe he doesn't understand the dynamics of markets.
No, you don't.
I said maybe.
Clearly,
because he doesn't. Because it's a price that comes with this bond.
All right, sir.
How much are you willing to pay?
saying that with the dynamics of the current investor market,
let me tell you where they got it wrong
suitable
again.
for
Let me tell you again where they got it. It's not right. It's not about the rate. It's not about the rate. Can I have my take? Can I have my take?
No, because it's...
Can I have my take? Can I have my take?
If you are willing to pay 25%,
can I have my take?
Would that be oversubscribed?
It would be oversubscribed.
Can I have my take?
What is he saying?
Your point has been made.
Where he's getting it wrong again is not because of the rate. Now, they made assumptions upon which they expected the international community to take decisions to invest.
Including price assumptions.
Now,
you are saying it's not
one of the assumptions they made was that what do you call it? Consumption of petroleum products
will be consistent or will always be hitting the roof.
In fact, they said it will increase from the 2016
And your argument is that what?
The argument is this. The figures that we had in 2016
at the time that
were even lower compared to 2015.
Why?
2015 figures were higher because we had the energy crisis at the time. But by 2016, when clearly as a result of government's interventions, when the intervention started yielding results, the consumption went down.
Okay, because domestically people were not buying
people
for
were no
their
longer buying for their generators and buying because it had started improving because of the interventions of President Mahama. And that was when he said, I have fixed
interventions indeed.
Now, so for 2017, any logical thinking person, seeing how stable, because the fruits of the investments of President Mahama were beginning to yield results, will conclude or predict that, you know, consumption of petroleum products will go down. But they rather said it will shut up by, I think, about 3%.
Roland.
And the investors know that this is not practical. Roland. So they will not invest.
What he needs to
Please wrap up on this so that we move on to the president touring the Greater Accra.
Needs to understand is that if we wanted to get 100% subscription or even over subscription,
you would have increased the rate.
So however he goes to make his case, it doesn't. For me, he doesn't actually have any solid.
So your argument is that what they were getting all those over subscription because their rates were always high.
Listen,
because they were in need of money.
They were in need of money.
They were hot. They were hard for cash.
NDC government, the one that just passed, was the most irresponsible government in our time.
You see the insult?
No, it's not insult.
When you respond to them, then they say you are insulting.
Let me finish what I mean by irresponsibility.
They can't speak without such disrespectful adjectives.
No, I don't disrespect, but I'm telling a fact.
I mean,
I can give you several of them.
You're saying irresponsible is not insult.
Because you create debt, you don't pay. You borrow the nation's life away. 122 billion at the time you left office.
What's the debt now?
Right now, it's gone up. But
over 132.
Listen, Roland, you and I know.
Yes, sir.
You and I know very well that borrowing in itself is not bad.
Oh, now
you're really?
Oh, yes. I've never argued against
hear
it.
that.
I think we should. Borrowing in itself is never bad.
But the mama struggle to let people hear you.
What is
hear
bad?
this?
No, I said it several times. What is bad is how you use the funds borrowed. If you do not put the funds, hold on.
And doesn't it sound familiar to you that they reject it?
If you use the funds borrowed and go and do guinea
you think what you're borrowing, you're using
guinea fowl business, and they fly to what do you call it, Burkina Faso?
But that just
stop.
Very simple about
you go and inflate the price of Kumasi Airport at over 23 million.
From Alaji GPS.
Okay. So you have to understand. So it's just how you use it. Our friends in NDC, they were borrowing, but they were borrowing irresponsibly. That's the difference. So we need the money, but we're not just going to pay any price.
All right.
We're not going to pay 22, 23 as you did. Go and watch it. Okay. Go and look at the facts.
Roland,
even me, I want to ask more questions on this thing. But there are too many places I want to ask. But
when President Kufuor was leaving office, there were no debts, right? Ghana didn't owe. Ghana didn't owe.
9.5 billion. And then you took it to what? And where's the money?
So far, how much have you borrowed? And
President Kufuor.
What? So far, how much have you borrowed?
When it comes to management of the economy,
anyway, let's go.
The last thing you want to do.
President Kufuor has been touring Greater Accra.
And your smoothness level.
The first day of his tour, he's been visiting a number of areas, including the ports, where he said the GRA was key to the success of revenue generation, etc. You know, the minority has been taking a dig at you that you've not been getting the revenues right. Etc. Now the president is saying GRA is key to success, and the president is also saying that corruption at the ports should be stopped. And now we have paperless ports, etc. But he's still worried that corruption is still pervasive.
Well, corruption is something that we need to deal with as a country. It's affecting us badly. It's giving us bad image everywhere you look. So we have to find a way to deal with it. And I'm glad probably very soon, by the end of the week, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the bill is now at the consideration stage. Hopefully we'll finish it. If we don't finish next week, it will be done, so that we can start taking action. The talk has been too much for me, right? I think we should start taking action. There are people who, I think, if they're found guilty...
Even without the Office of the Special Prosecutor, you can still prosecute.
Well, the question is that there's a lot of mess that we have inherited.
What is that? That phrase. There's a lot of mess we've heard. What does it mean?
What it means.
Propaganda, that's what it means.
Everywhere you look in Ghana, everywhere we look, we have mess. Go to Masbok, go to Kokobot, go to everywhere you look. Let's help the health sector. Go and import 200 ambulances only good for Trotro. And all, everywhere you look. So there's a mess. We are not complaining. The president said he's not complaining. Ghanaians give us mandate to manage this country, not to complain about the mess we inherited. Because of that, sometimes some of the weights of those mess drag you and make you so. So we need to understand where we are coming from as a country. He says that we came and we met stable light power. Yes, you did bring all the capacity we needed to solve the problem. But for 4.5 years or more, you couldn't solve it. You couldn't do it. You couldn't sustain it. You were not paying the debts. So that is what happened under their watch. So when they begin to talk in 9 months and 10 months, begin to turn around.
But from August 25th, from August 2016, we had seen some level of stability, comparative or comparable to the period.
Roland, if even NDC.
So too with the economy. If you look at the rate from the Bank of Ghana,
friends in NDC,
specifically the monetary policy committee of the
friends in
Bank of
NDC want to be given credit, we have no problem sharing any of the credits with them.
But you feel they don't deserve.
But they don't. If you look at the magnitude of the issues that they took Ghana through, they have no moral right. In fact, I was one of the people that didn't agree with that line, that our friends in NDC have no moral right to criticize the current government. They should just watch what is happening. So I believe that given the opportunity, they can continue to do what they are doing. They haven't learned. They have a broken party they need to fix. And when you talk about them, they say they don't. Okay, if you don't have a broken party, why will you try to unite something? But you need to work.
Somebody with an acting chairman and acting secretary say we have a broken party.
Yes, you do. I mean, we be moderate about this. When we were going to power, I mean, when we were trying to come to power, you said our party was broken and all those things. You didn't respect the advice of our former president, the late Professor Mels Dufiasem. You were talking anyhow. Yeah. Today we said that yours is just even a mess. They have a broken party to fix. They are disunited. They are having issues.
Corruption. So unless we have special prosecutor, no corruption.
No, it's going to happen. But this is going to speed. This is going to speed it. And for me, I think they're talking out too much. And I've noticed
that Martin Abidu doesn't mean talking a lot.
Well, I don't know about what he's doing right now, but I can tell you what my prayer is that we'll finish this bill, we'll get everything in order, and then we'll start seeing action. Because some of our friends who have touched money, and I don't care whether you are here or there, they are afraid. So they make noise. And if you think you have done something, take them to court, take action. Let's wait and see. Once we have the evidence, and we can go to court or we can go to a special prosecutor.
Do you think you have the evidence?
Well, you're telling me you don't have evidence? Everywhere you look. Everywhere you look. Except that we want to make sure that we can make a case. Just because you go to court first does not mean you're going to win a case. So we have to make sure we have solid evidence, facts that can be used to prosecute people.
Sorry,
and when we start prosecuting,
it looks like each time you're on the program, we have to end the show when. So I give some few minutes.
You see, first of all,
I'm sorry.
You see, okay. My friend says that everywhere you look, it's messy, and so the mess is so apparent.
It's so weighty.
So Yopo,
everywhere. I gave you a few of them.
Yopo,
everywhere.
Baby,
mass log, insurance, everywhere.
Roland, you said I don't have time, and you are not stopping him. You are rather encouraging him.
Stop.
You know, if the mess is so apparent, why are they on this propaganda spin that they are waiting for the OSP, the Office of Special Prosecutor? Why? If it is so apparent, and we have the Attorney General Office, we have the UCO, we have the Shraj and others, and the mess is so glaring, then why are you waiting for the Office of Special Prosecutor before you do anything? It's messy. It's obvious. Like you say, it's apparent. Take action. Why are you waiting?
So you take action too.
I say it's propaganda because remember next week there will be a budget. For the 20...
I'm told on the 15th.
Can I finish? Yes, on the 2018 budget. What happened to the Asempa budget?
The match
beyond the hype and the excitement the reading created. What has happened to Ghana?
Oh, we have free SHS.
Beyond the hype. So you see, it's the same line they are going with this OSP. Trust me, it will also be premature ejaculation at the end. They will create the excitement. We are waiting for Office of Special Prosecutor. We are waiting. We'll pass it next week, and nothing will happen. Because the president himself, when he was speaking, when he met the press, I think to mark his 100 days, he said that there are so many allegations you hear in this country, and when you get into office and you begin to realize that it is not like that, go and listen to his statement. So you see, we are saying that they won based on the lies and deception. It is time for them to prove it. But the president says that the corruption at the port should stop. I want to plead with the president that as much as I want to agree with him, I think that he should also help by stopping the corruption at the presidency.
Which corruption?
The corruption that A+ talks about at the presidency and others. He should also try to stop the corruption at the ministries. The one Kennedy Ajapong talks about. He should try and stop the corruption at the agencies. BOST, the Ghana Post. He should stop them.
What's happening at Ghana Post?
Because you see, maybe the people at the port, they are taking 200 Ghana, 300 Ghana, and maybe 500 Ghana.
So he has evidence?
Which is bad, which must be stopped. But we're talking about a deal that allocates 3.5 million Ghana cedis for publicity. I'm talking about GPS. And the GPS it can, even if we are all going to utilize it, not up to about 20% of Ghana's population can use it, because less than 20% of the population are using smartphones. So even if all of us, even if it is working so well, and we all know it's a scam, because the man says we shouldn't say it's a fraud, that the fraud is disturbing his business, so it's a scam.
So you start to do with scam.
With scam. We all know what it is. So, but I'm saying even if it is proper, the president must look into some of these things. We know the contaminated fuel saga and the, acrobatics. And the acrobatics they did with it. The president must deal with this. And even if there are things that happen under our watch, the president must do it. He should take action and stop the talk, stop the rhetoric. Take action. I mean, when you begin to take the actions, people will know that indeed the so-called incorruptible Nana Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, is in office. As for the speeches, the platitudes, we have heard them since we were children, because he has always been in the media and he's always, said those things. It's time to do them. So I agree with him. The corruption at the port must stop. But please, Mr. President, the corruption at the presidency...
He also says the GRA is key to our success.
The corruption at the presidency must stop. We shouldn't get wishy-washy reports, exonerating people and leaving questions still hanging. The corruption at the ministries. Remember the National Identification Authority contract and the issues Kennedy Ajapong raised against the Minister of Communications. They are still hanging. We don't know the results. He must stop them. He must take action there. Remember, and I've already told you about, the acrobatics with the boss scandal. One time a committee is set up, national security has cleared them. Let's resolve these issues. So I agree with the president. But then again, the finance minister also, almost at the same time yesterday, was talking about our tax to GDP ratio. And because I'm bringing it in because the president was speaking to the GRA and talking about the need for them to bring in more money so that he can also meet his targets. I found it interesting that the finance minister, who with my brother and friend here, went around to describe the NDC as, a tax administration that was overburdening the people with tax and saying we had been taxed too much.
Overtaxed.
That we have been overtaxed. Thank you. That was the word. The finance minister today could boldly look at us in the faces and said our tax to GDP ratio is too low. That our tax to GDP ratio is about 16%, when it should be around 22%. This is the same man
I think the argument
who told all of us that we have been overtaxed.
Well, the argument of the MPP financial team is not necessarily about increasing taxes, but widening the taxes.
Well, they haven't done that, have they?
No, sir.
Okay, so the question is, if he's saying today that our tax, so at the time we're not overtaxed, because he says 16% is too low. We are not overtaxed. So again, Fancy Gadam comes in, doesn't he? Total cheat.
Okay.
All right,
total
so we have to wrap up.
Well, Roland.
Oh, no, man. No. If you talk, you talk.
If you talk, I'll talk.
He can say all these
If
things.
you talk, I'll talk.
He's talking about corruption.
No, if you talk, I'll talk. I'll come in because you see, if Roland gives you time, if Roland gives you time, he has to give me time.
Daniel Ochemabwaji
Those who
is a member of Parliament for
corrupted
Bantama.
themselves, previous government must be taken care of. He's talking about tax. I'm glad.
Daniel Ochemabwaji. This one, Suhini will not respond. Daniel Ochemabwaji.
Taxes. What we are saying is that let's...
My good friend Daniel Ochemabwaji is a member of Parliament for Bantama.
You guys are hot.
And then also, I've had in the studio Al-Hassan Suhini is a member of Parliament for Tamale North. And thanks for joining me, gentlemen. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Always a pleasure.
Do you have the GPS, the Ghana Post GPS?
I don't know whether I should take the
Do you have it on your phone?
I'm still thinking of taking the Asasi one or the GPS. I hear they are the same.
Post.
I hear they are the same. So if one is free and one we are paying 2.5 billion for it, so I just don't know if I should support that.
So do you have any?
I think I'll go for the free one.
The free one.
So
you don't have any on your phone?
No, I don't have any. I'm using the Google one and it helps me. I use the Google map anywhere I want to go.
Well, the Google one doesn't generate a special ID for you.
Roland, all the developments that we are
special ID.
Everything that is
Do you have access to GPS?
Remote.
I do. Why not?
Okay. Have you generated
all the developments that is going? I'm just telling you. All the things that are happening is basically keep our friends in NDC in a position for a long time, and especially when they haven't.
It's been 3 weeks since apparently.